there we go. Is that I record these and then I upload them to they're not listed videos, so only people with the link can watch them, but I upload them to YouTube and send you guys the link so that
great.
You can watch it over and over and over again. So it's kind of
perfect.
Yeah, it's kind of cool and kind of fun. So that's what, let's see, we're recording now. Yes. So that's, I have to remind myself, I have a big sign here that says hit record dummy, because there was one week that I forgot to hit record. And it was not, well, I've done it a couple of times actually. But the last time I re-recorded the whole painting, you know, that lesson that we had done. So let's see, let's go to screen. Apparently I can't talk and work on the computer at the same time. Okay, so there's my sketch. Why don't I do this? Because these are tall. Let's see. Can I do that?
Yay!
And we'll make this one a little bit bigger because that looks like that. And that way you can kind of see the sketch that I did and then the source that I was kind of using. I didn't sketch in any of this cool stuff, but it is kind of fun to try and do a little bit, you know, like at least a hint of some of that texture of that hand carving. So I'll probably show, well, I know I'll show you guys how to do that. But you don't necessarily need to draw it in right away. So don't worry about that little detail. And you can see that I've simplified the more quite a bit. I liked all this little stuff and it was kind of interesting, but I don't know. I just wanted to kind of simplify like around the window a little bit, and I simplified the door. You know, I turned it into a doorknob instead of this kind of fancy latch. Just because I don't know, it's easier, and I'm not sure. Like if I were really zooming in on that and took a picture of that door latch and really wanted to paint that, then I would probably spend more time with that than what I did over here. But okay, so I'm going to
Can you see yourself on the TV?
see here.
What happened to your phone? What's up over there? What are you drawing at?
Okay. Let's see. Anybody else trying to get in? Nope. Okay. That's what I'm looking for. Well, did everybody have a good Easter holiday?
Yes, I did.
Oh, good.
I didn't do much.
Oh, Kathy Bradley just emailed saying she wasn't going to be able to attend. I didn't really have a very busy weekend, but we just kind of took it easy. Let's see, let's move that. Link to.
Are you still doing a lot of biking?
No, I haven't had the time. I injured my knee pretty good. I think that was pre-biking. And I need to get another rooster comb shot in it. The biking started to kind of wear on my knee. And I just haven't, it's not exactly cheap. And I don't work for the city anymore, so I don't have that insurance anymore. So I haven't been.
So what do you do?
I do this, and I've been kind of filling in for the Gallup Main Street program. Most recently, so that's I did a little stint with the New Mexico Main Street last summer, and then a short stint with Gallup Main Street, and then their director is on leave right now, maternity leave right now. So I've been filling in for her. So I've been working down there in Gallup 3 days a week. So that's been kind of fun. They have a really neat downtown, kind of like we do here. So it's been pretty fun to kind of work with them and help them out. But I kind of widened the door out quite a bit. I realized on this. That's all right.
So are we going to do geraniums in the pot?
We can do geraniums, or that was kind of my thinking. I'm just going to do a little thing where I thought about using masking fluid, But then I thought it'd be kind of fun to just kind of paint around some areas where the flowers would be. And so I got that centered more than I wanted. That's all right.
So Michael, are we gonna paint the door frame lavender?
No, I think I'm gonna paint it the same color as the door.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, it'll be kind of that weathered turquoise
Um,
look is what I'm gonna go for.
I'm sitting here wondering how you're gonna do the weathered look.
Well, it's kind of fun. I'll show you. It's pretty fun. So,
Huh.
I mean, it won't look exactly like that, but it'll
Yeah.
look close enough. I may have oversimplified this door, and now I'm trying to overcomplicate it.
What are you doing today?
That's it. There we go. Actually, the way I drew this, I ended up adding another pot over kind of, I don't know if I like that composition yet or not, but I added a little, another little, well, not little, I added a fairly sizable flower pot down in the lower right-hand corner because I ended up making the door shorter than I wanted to originally. And I don't want to redraw it. So we'll see if I end up liking this composition or not. Ooh. Has everybody gotten it drawn on or drawn on their paper so far? Or are we?
Yep.
Yes.
Anybody still working on it? I'm gonna. Just me then. Okay.
Pretty much.
Just me. I'm at the flower pot right now.
Okay. Well, I'm close to done, but not quite. A couple perspective issues with that.
Michael,
Yeah.
this is Jeannie. Just to let you know, I'm going to be gone the next 2 Monday nights.
Oh, okay.
We're officiating volleyball in Colorado,
Oh, fun.
so I'll be gone.
Okay, well, I will record the classes.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll make sure I.
Make sure you turn record, huh? Just kidding. I'm going to tell Kathy to remind you.
Okay, yeah.
There you go. Now somebody needs to remind me.
Uh,
All right. I'm going to go. Let's see. Is everybody done or are you still?
Good
Done.
enough.
Still working on the flower pot, but I'll be done in just a second.
No worries.
So Michael, what have you drawn now?
I have pretty much everything in there. I drew a couple extra flower pots. I'm trying to decide if I like them. I felt like I needed something more on the right-hand side of my paper. Because I ended up centering the door a little bit too much.
Hmm.
So I'm just adding some more, kind of flower pot kind of deals. I'm not sure if I like them or not, but maybe I do. I don't know. But I have the door. I'll show you here in just a second. Let's see here. Like that one there? All righty. I'm going to real quickly stop sharing and show you what I've got. Can you guys see that okay? I'm not sure that I like that. And I think looking at it from here, I don't like it. So I'm going to take that back out. I don't mind the one down in the corner, but this one was bugging me.
You can think of something else later.
Yeah. And if I don't, it's okay. I have this little plant potted plant thing going on here. And I'm okay with that. This one, you know, I made my door quite a bit shorter than planned, and let me, Kathy, did you get yours finished? I don't want to move on before.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to move on before everybody was ready. So. But you know, I kind of roughly sketched in this little porch light, and I'm not sure how I feel about this pot right here yet, or the shape of these flowery things. But I think that's all right. I don't know. I'm kind of looking at it on my computer screen so that I can kind of see what I've done. You can see I have this really light line right here, kind of coming down and then across here and then down over here on this side. That's where that porch comes in. Right about here, there's a little deal that comes down, and it's a covered patio, so that casts that shadow. So let us see what we've got going on here. Real quickly, what did I do with that? I'm going to clean off my palette just a little bit. I still have that stuff from last week. And I kind of want this to be somewhat cleaner in this area here. Let's see. Spray some more water on there. And I'm going to start. So I'm going to start this with the kind of this wall back here. This whole. So I'm going to do everything. Actually, yeah, I think that's Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and kind of start with the wall. And yeah, I guess you can kind of see that. I forgot I angled the camera so you could see my palette. Get all this paint wet. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to start with this kind of wall back here, and then probably actually this foreground as well. Even though they're going to be a little bit different later, I think I'll do this whole wash here, and then this foreground. And I'm going to start with a little. I'm going to use some mainly because even though it's a little hard to tell from the photo, but that was kind of later in the afternoon when you get that kind of lower sun, turns everything orange. So I'm going to I know I'm going to use a couple of these oranges. We'll just start those there. And then we'll move on from there. But so I'm going to start off, I think, with a little bit of this permanent yellow deep. If you don't have something like that, like a cadmium yellow deep or cadmium orange light, one of those kind of things, that's a good compromise. Or Indian yellow. I have some Indian yellow here, and you can see it's fairly, so it's kind of almost between those two. So that's what Indian yellow is right there. I also have some azo yellow. That's this. So if you had something like that, it's just a little bit lighter, but still very similar. You can kind of see. So any of those would work pretty well. Let's go with this. And I'm and I'm just going to start with a little of that and work my way down. You know, this is that place where the multicolored wash shines. So bring that down in here. Bring that down around back. That's part of that. You're going to be able to see through. Let's switch over to some permanent yellow orange. Again, this would be yellow cadmium orange. Kind of bring that down in there. I'll use a little opera here too, just to get a little bit different kind of light in there. Just kind of bring that in. Let's switch back to this. Well, I might try this azo yellow. That's kind of fun. It's kind of a fun. It's a little bit lighter. Apparently, don't have enough water in there though. Just a touch lighter without being like lemon yellow. Let's see. So that's a whole lot of that permanent yellow deep, and then I think I was using some azo yellow there. Let's go back to, I may actually have a little of this orange up in there. And then we'll come back over here with some of that. I have to move kind of quickly. That's a little too much. Because it's warm in here, so I've got like 3 fans going, or well, 2 fans going. I've got the ceiling fan going, and it's drying stuff out pretty quick. Although I'm not, overly worried about getting blossoms, particularly when doing like a stucco or adobe wall, something like that. I don't really worry about that too much. Let's see. I'm going to try a little Scarlet Lake, I think. If you don't have Scarlet Lake, there's any number of reds that would work fine. Alizarin Crimson would be a good one. Pull that down in there. Maybe over here as well. Even permanent red would be good. And I'm just kind of painting around where these, I've got this plant drawn in. I'm not overly concerned about it. Let's see, I'm going to kind of keep that light right on here. A little more of that up in there before that totally dries. So I'm just basically kind of going around this wall shape until I've got this kind of nice, kind of orange and pink and red wash down on there. Let's see. Let's come in with a little more of that not peacock, opera. A few spots. Now, some of this over here is going to be covered up by that shadow, but that's all right. Let's see. Let's come back down in here with a little. So I have Scarlet Lake there. I'm going to now switch over to a little alizarin crimson, which looks very similar, but it's just a little bit different. Just kind of bring that down into there. And then I'm going to switch back to like permanent yellow deep or azo yellow or Indian yellow, whichever one of those you want to use. And even though this is going to touch, and I'm okay with that, I'm just going to kind of bring that in there like so. Maybe switch over to that permanent yellow orange. Let's see, let's use a little more of that. And let's get a little opera in there too. That. Move around with a little water. So right there, I put down a little of that opera, and then I cleaned my brush out. Well, really, I just stuck it in the water. So most of the paint came out, and there was just mostly water, and then I started moving that around on the page. So that looks pretty good. And do a little more opera over here in that corner. Like that, maybe just a touch more of that yellow. Yeah. So it's right now it looks fairly flat because because it's almost all the same. Needs a little more of this Scarlet Lake down in here. I didn't think I had quite enough on there. Got to pull that up into there. clean that up just a bit. That'll work. Kind of pull some of that in there as well. And I was getting a weird line right there, so I'm just going to kind of spread that out just a bit. But yeah, that's not too bad. Any questions? I mean, it's fairly straightforward. This is, you know, kind of that initial walk. I could have even used a little green in there or something. In fact, I may grab just a wee bit of this permanent green number 1. Maybe put that in a couple of spots right in here to kind of show that it's kind of moist, or not moist, but what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe even a little peacock blue, just to kind of give that a little variety. You know, kind of how you have those, you know, either concrete or stone paths, and they kind of feel a little damp compared to like other, or they appear that way.
Flagstone.
Flagstone, yeah, it'll kind of have that kind of damp look, and so that, you know, that could be kind of what this. There's a bit of moss or something growing in the cracks or something. So that's where this color is coming from. Let's go back to. So that was a little hooker's green that I dropped in there. And then this is a little peacock blue. And that'll just kind of move this stuff around. Pick some of that excess water up down here with a thirsty brush. And you'll remember I'm just wiping the brush off, getting, you know, squeezing out most of the moisture so it's damp but not wet. And that allows me to pick up some of this excess moisture along there. You know, I kind of like how that looks. That's still damp enough. I think I might bring in just a bit of that green, maybe up in here, just to see. What I think. And again, that just kind of gives it that earthy, and you're thinking, well, there's no green or orange or whatever, you know, it's all earth tones, and that's true, but this is a more interesting looking adobe. And just that hint of, you know, a contrasting color kind of makes it a little more vibrant.
Sorry.
Yeah. So just that little hint of green, I think helped out, kind of made that a little more interesting and made this this kind of pathway a little more interesting. With the peacock blue and the so I'm going to dry this really quick, I think. And then we can kind of start on the door. All right. Okay. Oh, man, that's still a little damp right there. Be all right though. I kind of want to make this. I made this window a little small, and these lines are a little dark. I'm just going to roll my kneaded eraser over those, but then I'm going to make that window just a wee bit bigger. Yeah, that works. I just felt like that window was just a little bit too small. So really the only two things I kind of need to worry about are this doorknob and the window. So I'm just going to paint around those. And we kind of want this turquoise door, but a lot of it's not going to be turquoise or cerulean blue or peacock blue or whatever blue that I'm gonna use a variety of blues and stuff in this, but I'm gonna actually start this with a little quinacridone gold. And if you don't have quinacridone gold, that's where raw sienna works really well. It's very similar. I just, like I think I've said this a few times. I switched to quinacridone gold just because I like it a little bit better than raw sienna. But there's nothing really wrong with raw sienna. It's actually a nice color. I just like quinacridone gold a little bit better. So you can see it's kind of this earthy gold color, kind of earthy brownish gold. And so I'm going to start with a little of that, and I'm not going to really work my way from the top to the bottom. I'm just going to kind of start somewhere in the middle and go from there. So I'm just going to put some quinacridone gold down in some spots, and then I'm going to come back in and like right now I'm going to use some Andrews turquoise. If you don't have Andrews turquoise, cerulean blue is really nice. I'll be using some of that later on this same thing. So just a little of that. Maybe some more over here. Let's see. Use a little opera in here. Right now that looks really strong, but I'm going to soften that back down with a lot of water. Oops. And it's okay that I got a little bit of water paint on my doorknob. I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to switch back over to some alizarin crimson. Right in here, and then maybe down in there. And let's try a little cerulean blue now. That's kind of a chalkier looking color. A little bluer than the turquoise, the Andrews turquoise that I was using, which I think I want a little more of right over in here. Let's see. I think I'm even going to grab a little bit of this permanent, permanent yellow orange and throw in a little of that in a few spots just so it looks, it's got a little bit brighter orange kind of wood coming through. Maybe a little peacock blue. Let's bring some of that peacock blue in. Whoa, that's a lot. There we go. That's a little better. We'll pick some of that up and pull it down in here. And then, I always forget about this step. This step is wood, but unpainted wood, and I was actually going to do it as part of this, but I forgot about it. But that's all right. Here's a little more peacock blue over here. Let's see. Add a little more water in some of these spots. Let's see. Let's do a little more of that orange right in there. And really, actually, let's pull some of that back over here. Let's go back to the Andrews turquoise. Kind of finish out over here with that. Maybe bring some more of it up in here. Let's go back to the cerulean blue maybe. let it kind of, I'm going to pick up this side and let it kind of run that way for a minute here. Pull that in. I think I'm going to grab a little permanent magenta as well. Drop that in a couple of spots. Maybe right in here where I want that to be just a bit darker. Let's see, what was I doing up here? Let's go back to some of that quinacridone gold. And then maybe back into some of that cerulean blue. And right now, this is probably looking like a big mess, but that is okay. This door won't really come into shape. Right now, it's just going to look like this weird blue blob. It's not really going to come into shape until the very end when we go in and paint some details. We start painting in details to this door. Until then, it's just going to look like this kind of turquoisey, pink, whatever blob of blue. Grab a little more of that turquoise and drop that in. Let's drop in a little more lizard and crimson here as well. Just to kind of. And it's okay, I've got this kind of running over my doorknob and even over my stoop here or step, whatever. That is okay. Tommy's trying to get in. There we go. Oh, boy, I really don't have you. There we go. Sorry, I had this mostly angled at my palette. So just yeah, I mean, it's kind of a messy blob of color right now, but that's okay. Once we start adding details in, it'll be fine. I'm gonna add a little more opera in a few spots. Here it's going to look a little more pure, and that's kind of cool. And then down here it'll mix a little bit more. Over here it's on top of some other blues and stuff, so that's all right. Maybe just a bit more of it. Well, actually, I want to come in with the permanent yellow deep instead of the permanent yellow orange in a few spots. Kind of pop that in there. Yeah. And let's see, I've got a fair amount of excess water. Hey, Tommy, I meant to say hi when I let you in, and then I forgot what I was doing.
Oh, that's fine. I had a late check-in today.
Oh, yeah. I can just kind of come in and pick some of that back up. Even if color runs down into it, that's okay. And I'm I'm gonna hit it with a dryer for a minute and see how much I get dry, and then if I can get some of that to blossom, because that starts to look like peeling paint and stuff when we get that to happen. So let me just hit this just for a second. Right. I got that a little. There we go. And I think I'm just going to put a little more turquoise down here in this corner. Hit that dryer a little bit more. Yeah, I don't know if I. Got that to do exactly what I wanted to do, but the thing I like about, I just dropped some cerulean blue in there. The thing I like about the cerulean blue for this particular, type of thing is that it's got that kind of chalky, you'd see almost granulated look. And that, when it dries, gives you a really kind of cool texture for something like this. That's kind of interesting. It's not exactly how I wanted it to turn out, but it's still fairly interesting. I kind of like it. What I may do is, now that that's kind of dry, I may come in with just a bit of this peacock blue right here over the Anders turquoise, just to brighten up a little bit of this bottom part of the door. And yes, I know that that's going to look weird, but once I add a little water and kind of allow this to kind of run down into some of that area, just felt like it needed just a bit of a brightening. And that peacock blue can do that. It just adds a little bit more. Maybe just a hint more of the opera in a couple of spots. Soften that up. Yeah, that's not too bad. Although I think it looks a little better in person than on screen, but that's always the case. Or at least usually in my end. You know, I think y'all's look much better in person than on screen as well. So that's the one downside to this. We can't really see exactly what it looks like in real life, but there. A little tape issue here, so I'm just gonna re-stick that down. Yeah, so I think that's pretty good. You know, I mean, obviously this looks like a, you know, kind of a blue mess right now, but later, once we add some detail to that, I think it's going to look really good. Okay, now. Oh, I didn't draw that very straight, did I? That's all right. Oh, and I have a little, let me give myself this little kind of cast shadow bit that's going to come down here. Just make a note of that so I don't forget about it. And I think, so since this is dry out here, I'm going to kind of do the shadow across here. I'm not going to do the shadow on the door yet. I'm just going to worry about the shadow on the wall because this shadow is going to be slightly different than this shadow. And for this, I'm going to start with a little, well, before I get going, is everybody good? We're
Yep.
okay. No questions or concerns or anything like that. So I'm going to start with a little. I think I'm going to use quinacridone. Permanent magenta to start with. It's a little lighter than the quinacridone violet. It's a little pinker in my case. Now, if I could find that Holbein permanent magenta, I'd be happy with it. But this is a different brand of permanent magenta. I can't remember what it is, and it's just a little bit more magenta-y than the Holbein permanent magenta, which is a little more, you know, violet. I don't think magenta-y is a word. I think I made that up. But I'm going to start with a little of that. you can see it's this right here. And then I'll kind of move through some of these purples and blues and whatnot. And I can see that I've got this line kind of coming along here. So I'm just going to kind of bring that in. It doesn't have to be super dark to be a nice deep shadow. Let's see, I'm going to move on to a little peacock blue, which I didn't rinse my brush out very well. We'll just throw in a little of that, which should have kind of a green tint to it. Up here, let's see. I don't want to get too close to that door with that, so I'm going to switch. I probably shouldn't have used that quite yet, but that's all right. I'm going to switch to some quinacridone violet, which is that slightly darker violet. Kind of bring that down in here. And then I'm just going to kind of paint around this door and the kind of beam there. Got a bit of a curve right here. And if you need to, when you get into a spot like this, you know, you can always switch to a, let's see, I'm going to switch back to that permanent magenta. You can always switch to a smaller brush if you need to get into some of these tight spaces, which is what I'm doing here. And add a little more of that up into there so it's not quite as dry. Okay. I'm going to use, let's see. Let's go back to, I'm going to use a little royal blue, I think, up in here, because it's a little darker in this corner. But I still want, you can see it's fairly thin because I want a lot of that undercoat, you know, that yellow that's underneath it to show through. Let's go back to this quinacridone violet right here. Just kind of bring that in like so. Let those two kind of bleed together. Let's see. I'm going to mix a little quinacridone violet and royal blue together to get kind of deeper violet, which I kind of have already there a little bit, but let's pull this kind of deeper violet over here. Drop a little of that in there. I'm even going to, I think because there'd be just a wee bit of reflected light, I'm going to grab a little opera, drop in a few spots, just for giggles. Put some more water in there. Get some of that excess up. Yeah. Smooth that out. I don't know what I've got going on here. Clearly, I don't have enough water in my brush. Let's see. Go back to this. Actually, I'm gonna mix a little Hooker's green with royal blue and get a nice little kind of green blue. And then what I'm going to do later is actually lift a little bit of this shadow back out where this curved wall is. Pull that down in there. Add some water. Let's go back to this violet blue mix. Down into here. finish that out. So maybe add a little more of that violet blue mix up in here. And bring a little of that blue green over here just to help balance that out. Yeah, that's not too bad. Once it dry, it looks a little dark and kind of some of these spots look kind of brown on camera. But once it dries, I think it'll look a little less so. I'm going to pick some more of these areas up. Just so some of that.
So I've been there before, right?
It doesn't matter because I found one online for $30.
Oh,
And so that big old put it on when it comes in.
oh,
And that makes more sense anyhow.
Yeah.
'Cause it would have cost me $100 there. I guarantee it.
yeah.
Corner up.
So that's what was wrong with that tire.
Oh, good. Mm, much.
And I'm going to clean that up a little bit with this green. Where it's formed that line, that's because it's dry right there, and all I need to do is just kind of come back in with a clean brush and sort of push it back up into that area. Yeah, that works pretty good. Yeah, that's not too bad. Yeah, so we have that first bit of shadow, and again, it looks weird because the shadow's not on the door. I'm going to let that kind of dry a little bit. Kind of thinking that this shadow should be a little lower down in here. But I could be wrong. So I just came in with some of that purple. I don't know why I used purple instead of that green, but then I'm going to come in with a little bit of green right here. And just bring that, just felt like it needed to be just a bit lower than where I had it drawn. And having that extra little bit, of texture there just by kind of not, kind of haphazardly painting that with the side of my brush, I think kind of lends it a little extra texture. Let's see. Had a weird line right there. I don't know if that was visible on camera or not. All right. Excuse me. Step back and look at it real quick. On camera, this stuff looks a lot dark, like earthier and muddier. I mean, it is a little bit muddy, but it looks a lot more than what it is in real life. At least on my screen. I don't know how it looks for you guys, but Okay. So I'm going to do a little little work in these kind of pots. And I'm going to start with just the plant material and then work my way. And what I'm going to do, just so I have something to kind of keep my eye on, where did that pencil go? Here's one. I'm going to just kind of draw some areas where I think maybe some flowers would be. So I'm just going to kind of know, okay, and I'm just kind of randomly picking these kind of groups of flowers. And I'm gonna make sure that I paint around those. Hopefully they're random enough. It's it kind of is what it is. It's if I were using masking fluid, I don't know if I'd get it any more random. I'd probably get some smaller shapes, but I'll make this whole kind of upper area. I think that's going to be one kind of big flower shape. And you can see I'm not really worried about making these look, I mean, hopefully you can kind of see those shapes. They're not really, shaped like flowers. They're just going to be color shapes, but they'll read like, somebody will think, oh, that looks like a flower. Let me get rid of a little extra of some of this pencil line where I can. Before I get any yellows and stuff down on there. Okay. So obviously our light source is coming from like somewhere kind of here. Kind of in that direction. Sort of. So sort of, back over, back away from and up above this. So I'm going to start with a little lemon yellow in a few spots. A little lemon yellow. I'm not too terribly worried about it being really, oh, that was where I was going to put flowers. So just stop right there. This is just some spots where I think maybe light will hit this plant. That's all I'm just, and I'm making it up. I'm not really too worried about it being perfectly correct. But let's see. So we'll use a little permanent green number 1 now. I'm just going to let this kind of hit where that yellow is. And this, this is just like my initial kind of pass. So I'll probably end up adding darker greens and stuff to this in spots. But right now, that's all this is, kind of the initial pass of color. Getting this down in here. And I'm just using my number 6 brush because it's fairly small and I can get into some tight spots with it. maybe I'll mix a little permanent or the lemon yellow with the green, number one. That gives me kind of this slightly pea soup looking color, which is fine. Let's go into a little permanent green number 2 now. Just slightly darker, not a lot darker, but a little bit. I don't know that I drew any flowers down here or not, but we're kind of see. Have a little more of that pea soup color that I mixed. I should have been over here, but that's okay. And again, this is just that kind of initial color. Back to that permanent green number 2. And maybe even a little hooker's green in a few spots. I'm going to come back later after this is dried and add a little bit more, but I want to add just a touch of hooker's green in a few spots. And I mean, you can see that, you know, this is just kind of that impression of a potted flowering plant. There we go. A little too dark, so let's just pick some of that back up. And let's do the same over here. You may not have the second one, I do, so I'm going to do the same little bit over here. Come in with a little lemon yellow, some spots. Get some of that highlight in there in a few areas. Some of this may go away, but for now, that's where it's at. Little permanent green number 1 in a couple of spots. That was supposed to be a flower there, but now it's just foliage. And so I'm just kind of switching off between that lemon yellow and the permanent green number 1. And then some of that little bit of mixed of the two. Cool thing is this doesn't really need, you know, all this has to do is give the, the impression of a potted plant. It doesn't have to look like any particular potted plant specifically. If I was painting a portrait of just that, one of these flowers or something, then by all means, I would go in a little more carefully and think about petal shape and all that. Let's switch over to a little permanent green number 2 and some of these spots. But for this, we're just, we're just giving the impression that it's a potted plant. You know, care that it's a specific kind. I mean, we'll think of it like that, but eventually. But right now, we're just kind of go back to that permanent green #1 yellow mix. What I have going on here? Which now is a bit more permanent green than yellow, but that's okay. And again, until we add the color for the flowers, this is going to just look like some little weird blobs of green. That down in there, a little color, maybe a little hooker's green now, just in a couple of spots. Then I'll come back later. Yeah, that was definitely supposed to be a flower right there, but that is okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's not too bad. Any questions or problems or concerns? Okay. Now, I think later I'll come back in and I'm going to probably add a little purple and blue to those leaves in the potted plants. But for now, I'm just going to leave it kind of the way it is. Excuse me. Man. Oh. Okay. Yeah. So let's do, a couple of these. Let's do these pots too. And in my head, like the one in the photo that you barely see instead of, in front of that little chair that I edited out. I also edited out the cable, TV cable, and a couple other things that, aren't that important. But that was like a half a whiskey barrel or wine barrel or whatever that they used as a planter. I'm using terracotta pots just because I like them. But yours could be anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be, a terracotta pot like I'm doing. All right. I'm going to start, pardon me. Man, I don't know where this yawning just suddenly came on from. I think I'm still having trouble with the time change. Let's see. I'm going to use a little, I think I'm going to go in with a little of that azo yellow. Just because it's a little lighter than the permanent yellow deep, but a little darker than lemon yellow. And I'm just gonna, this is gonna be a straightforward kind of gradient for right now. I'm just gonna kind of do this one and then I'll do that one later. But it's gonna kind of be fairly straightforward. So I have this kind of yellow, light yellow kind of wash, and then I'm going to come in with let's see, the permanent yellow deep maybe, which is just slightly darker. Do a bit of that. Add a little water right here where it's kind of dried out a bit. And then move into this, more orange. And I want to do this all while it's still fairly wet because I want these layers of color to blend in, and run together, so I get a nice smooth kind of gradient. Let's go back for some more of that orange. And then maybe what I'm going to use, I think, is a little permanent red. I could use Scarlet Lake or something like that, but I think I kind of want to just come in with some of this permanent red, kind of clean this edge up. And this particular permanent red actually has a wee bit of kind of a pink tint to it when it gets thinned down. So that's kind of interesting. That little flourishy thing that happened there by accident is kind of interesting. Let's see. A little more of that just for fun. Go back to some of this permanent yellow orange. And as I've said before, that's, just basically like cadmium orange. So not a real hard thing. Let me do this other side over here while that's drying, and then I can do that lip. They're all very similar, or this will be just about identical to that. So a little azo lemon or azo yellow, I think, in here. And then a little permanent yellow deep. And a little permanent yellow orange. And where that comes in, let's go back to this permanent red. Back here in the corner. Yeah. I just like these bright pots. I don't know why. I like the pots to be super bright. Well, you guys know that I just like really bright colors. So. Grab some of that. All right. And then I'll just do this lip real quick over here. And I'm just going to start with a little of the permanent yellow deep instead of that lighter azo yellow. Move into the orange. Just a hint of this red. Back over here. And maybe even, you know, like I'm kind of feeling like maybe this needs just a hint of violet down in here. So I'm going to use this permanent magenta in here and then kind of smooth that out over, at least in this spot. Just to give it a bit more value change. Do the same right here. And I'll eventually put in a little bit of a shadow here from the curve of the pot. I just haven't, you know, this is kind of that, but not totally. So we'll get to that here in a little bit as well. And I'm just going to pick up a little of that. And let's do a little bit of that over here on this one too. There's a little permanent yellow deep, a little permanent orange, or permanent yellow orange, I mean. And that may be all there's, maybe just a bit of that red. Over here. Doesn't need a lot. Just kind of a hint of it there. Yeah. So again, I mean, this all looks pretty, you know, messy. It's not anything to write home about yet. Fairly loose still. Well, not that loose, but loose enough. Yeah. And we'll end up with a, you know, with a shadow coming off of this stuff too, to help, you know, flatten this plane out. Because right now it just looks, I mean, it's starting to flatten out a little bit with this pot sitting on it and everything, but it's still going to be looking a little a little flat. It's not going to look like it has any depth yet. Yeah. So let's see. I think now I'm going to work on this little porch light. That's actually just kind of, it's pretty easy. What I'm going to do is actually just use a little peacock blue for the glass. And I'm not going to really go into a lot of detail on this. I'm just going to put a little wash of this peacock blue in there right here for this bit. Maybe just a touch more over here. Really drew this on here crooked, but that's all right. And then a little over here, but then I'm going to add in a little bit of a darker cast to it. Just so it's, just slightly darker because it's on that side. Now, granted, light's going to be shining through it, so it's not really going to be that much darker. But and then how do I want to do this? I think I'm going to make this kind of rusty looking. So I think I'm going to start up here. And I'm going to start with some quinacridone gold, I think. Just up in this area. And again, this is going to, and maybe a little opera. This is going to look a little sloppy at first. But once we go in and start adding details, it'll start coming together. So don't panic if yours looks a little weird. Let's see. I'm going to come in with a little. What is that? I'm going to use brown matter, but you could use burnt sienna. That would work great for this. Pull a little of that over in there. And maybe a little of this violet that I mixed up too, that kind of dark violet. Just put a little of it over here.
Michael, is that the holder for the,
Yeah, it's just, I drew it a little differently than what it looks like, but that's essentially that thing that's behind, that's attached to the wall that then, has that bit that comes out to hold the lamp light itself. So that's what this is. I just drew it slightly different than here. I'll show you guys. If we look at this photo, it's this little bit back there.
the
And then there's this part that comes out, and you got the little lantern thing. I kind of well, I don't know if I simplified it. I may have even made it more complicated. Mine's going to look like it's kind of hanging a little bit from something, it's just kind of a shorthand for what it is, I guess. I think I'm going to put a little peacock blue in that too, just so it has a little hint of maybe metal. And then, in fact, that's what I'm going to start with here as well. I'm going to start with a little peacock blue. And then come in with a little of that brown matter. Let's look. let's mix a little. I'm going to mix a little of that with some indigo, just to get a little darker kind of bit over here on this side. So I just kind of made, really what that looks like is burnt umber. I took a little, in my case, brown madder, but if you don't have brown madder, burnt sienna works just as well. And I mixed it in with a little indigo, but you don't necessarily have to use indigo. You could use royal blue or any of those and kind of look the same. And then I'm just going to put, kind of some hints of that around the edge here, and maybe we'll come down here with that. Let's go in with a little less. So I'm going to add a little bit more of the brown madder or burnt sienna, whatever, and have, so it's a little lighter shade over here. Let's pull in a little more indigo on this one, on this side, and then a little more indigo right there. Maybe this whole side kind of ends up being, well, it's going to be, kind of the shadow side. So, but the cool thing is, I mean, this doesn't have to be perfect. Let's see, I've got this little, I'm going to make this just kind of a dark hoop, where this hoop kind of comes up. There's a bit of a shadow on this side, so I'll just go ahead and paint that in and give that a little bit of dimension. And then I've got this kind of thing that comes off. I don't, it's not necessarily anything in particular. It's just kind of a little scribbly squiggle kind of thing that kind of looks like maybe it holds that lamp. Let's see, let's come back in with a little of this kind of earthy color. Which is, that's mostly burnt sienna that I used right there. Let's go back to that indigo violet burnt sienna mix. I had a little bit of violet in there too, but it's close enough. Just add a little bit of a shadowy thing down there. Yeah. Maybe just a bit of a hint of something there. But again, I mean, I don't care if this looks, to me, it doesn't need to look perfectly real. I'm just kind of hinting at some sort of light fixture here that let me kind of zoom in on that really quickly. You can kind of see it's not, there's not a lot of detail. It's just kind of a little scribbly thing. And that's all it really is. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not sure why that has a little white spot, but I'm going to put a little orange right in there. I don't mind it being a little lighter right there. Maybe it's caught a reflection or something. But I didn't really want it white. So yeah, I mean, that's really all that is. It's just like a 2-minute thing just to paint that lantern. Or
It's a,
torch.
okay.
What were you gonna say?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's all right. I thought maybe you had a question or a comment. And I've got a little shadow drawn there. I can do that real quick. And all that's going to be is just kind of this violet, probably this kind of violet-y color up in here that I've got, which was quinacridone violet. Well, I was using permanent magenta, but I'm going to use quinacridone violet and a little bit of peacock blue mixed in. I'll show you what I'm doing here. So I've got quinacridone violet right there. And then I just went over and grabbed a little of this peacock blue that's on my palette. And so I've got a couple of different violets there, maybe even almost 3. And I'm going to start with the lightest, that just pure quinacridone violet, and kind of come in with this shadow. And I want to leave some spots for the light kind of coming through. But what I'm going to do is actually lift that back out. So here's that. I'm going to go back into some of that that kind of middle quinacridone violet, peacock blue, and then down here we're going to go into a little darker stuff. So again, I'm not super concerned with how accurately this shows. This, looks as far as being, this shape here, but as long as it kind of reads like that, I'm good. Clean that up just a bit. Like that, and then, and that was just, I put just a hint of pure peacock blue right down there in the corner just for fun. And what I'm going to do is completely clean my brush out now and come back in kind of where I left that little bit of light showing through. I'm going to come back in and pick that up really quickly. So it looks like light coming through. Now, I don't want it to look rounded like that, so I'm going to come back in like there, kind of do that, and then maybe there's a little bit here, but it kind of just, it starts to read like, light coming through that glass just by picking that up a little bit. Still has a shadow. It still shows that there's light bouncing off of that, but it's also allowing some to pass through. So it just kind of reads. I think that's a little too thin though. So let me bring a little of this over here. Oh, maybe a little of that peacock blue again. Yeah, like so. So it kind of has that feel of, let me flatten this end over here too. It has that feel of light coming through, but also some of the light not making it through. So it's a little dimmer than, what's there. And again, it's just a suggestion of a shadow. It may be a little too dark. What I may want to do is lighten it just a bit more. Just by, I've got this paper towel that's kind of wonky, but, well, it's because I use it to clean my palette. Let's see if I lighten that. It didn't really lighten it that much. Just a bit more water right there. Yeah. It doesn't look that much different on camera when I turn around and look at my monitor, but in person, it looks a little bit lighter. So, yeah, just kind of fun. Technically, there would be some sort of, would be like this kind of hoop kind of shaped thing going on. and some sort of little shadow coming off over here as well. This will make that look a little more like it's based on reality. Whatever that little doodaddy shape is. There we go. Yeah. All right, so this is definitely dry now. So let's do this cast shadow, and I'm gonna use a round brush just because there's some tight spots. But I'm gonna move up to this number 10, and I'm gonna start with some royal blue. I think I want this kind of watered down though. Well, and I picked up a little green in there as well. So it's going to look like I'm putting on a lot, but I'm going to add some water here. I'm going to clean my brush out and add water. So I have this kind of royal blue aqua color that I kind of accidentally mixed up because I got a little green. And I'm just going to put that down. And then I'm going to move into a little violet. So I'm going to grab a little quinacridone violet and a little royal blue and kind of pull them down. And then this shadow is going to drop down just a little bit lower than where that was. And I'm going to pull it across kind of like that. So there's a little of that. And again, it looks like I'm adding a lot, but I want this really wet. So I put some down and then I grab a lot of water. You know, I kind of clean my brush out and grab some water. I'm going to switch it up to kind of this lighter permanent magenta, kind of more pink. Go back to this royal blue that I've got up here. And again, I want to be able to see a lot of that color showing through. So make sure that I come down here. And I don't like where that's ending up, so let's just pull in just a bit more. I'm just going to make sure that that whole window's in there. I didn't want it right at the corner. That was a little weird, wonky. So let's move into some of that violet again. And maybe what I'll do is grab a little Hooker's green and really use some green and some royal blue. I don't know if you can see that. It doesn't look a whole lot different. But this is Hooker's green and royal blue right there. And I'm going to bring a little of that. Yeah, see, that's got that kind of nice aqua, dark turquoise kind of look. And I realized what I've just done. Wasn't paying attention to what was going on over here. Maybe the roof does this other little wonky thing. I'm going to make it work. Wasn't paying attention. I'm going to make it work, though. And I think that this actually will come in a little lower because it's back behind. And that'll work all right. The great thing about shadows is they don't have to be perfect. I'm going to move over into a little of this violet right here. And we'll finish it off with some of that. So I know this still looks like, you know, kind of a weird mess, but bear with me. And your lines are probably disappearing fast on you. I know mine are. It's a little hard to see, but we'll just kind of make them up when we get back, when we get to that point. We can kind of guesstimate where they were. that doesn't bother me so much. Let me grab a little more of this violet mix here. This is that dark, this royal blue violet mix. This one a little down here as well. Just to get that. See if I can't get any blossoms over here in a couple of spots, just to give me some cool texture. I'm gonna grab a little. I'm gonna use a little opera, I think, just to displace some of this color. Let me get more water. Let's see. Just didn't have enough water in my brush. So I know that looks a little weird right now, but add some more water. Get that to run and do its thing. Yeah. That looks really dark on camera. But that's all right. You can still see, in this spot, you can still see some of that color showing through in a lot of this area, actually. You can see some of that quinacridone gold. I'm going to add a little more water. Just to kind of light a few areas and just kind of lift some of that back up. Yeah. Some of that back up. Just a few places. All I'm doing is taking a clean, damp brush, kind of rolling it, picking some of that back up, some of that excess water. I'm not pressing really hard on the paper or anything. If I was, more paint would come up, kind of like what I did over here. And let's dry that. Now let me just turn off. See if that looks any different without the. I'm still getting it. It still looks a little wonky on screen, but I just wanted to see what it looked like without the lights. Yeah. Okay, so I need a bit more, well, I've noticed I need to kind of fix this little bit of a curve right here. So I'm going to come in with this, this green right here that I was using on the same spot, kind of. See if I can't make that curve a little bit more. And if it's not perfect, I'm not too worried about it. You know, I keep trying to tell myself, okay, we're just having fun. This is just kind of a fun thing we're doing. So it's not, doesn't have to be perfect. We're practicing. And that's a little better. I like that curve a little bit better. But I also need a little bit of a shadow on the inside of this door to help push that back. So I'm going to take these kind of, this violet kind of color. I think I was using, here I was using a little, what is it? Permanent magenta. So I'm going to start off with some of that. And then I was using some quinacridone violet as well. That's over here. So, what I'm going to do is just kind of pull this down. First with a little color, I can kind of soften that edge. And then I'll pull this down. And right now it's going to look a little wonky, but don't fret. Let's see. Let's come in with a little quinacridone violet and a little of the blue quinacridone violet blue mix. And then let's just kind of pull this down. Just like so. And then, you know, after this dries, I'm going to come over here and soften this line because it's a bit more of a curve, a soft, you know, a soft corner than a hard corner like I've just painted it. So I'm going to soften it as well. Let's come back in with a little of that. Or, yeah, permanent. Just here. So, and I'm going to have, I forgot about this, but I'm going to have a little bit of a shadow on the door too. So I need to take that into account. But I'll do that after this dries because I don't want those two to run together. But you can see I've softened that line. You almost can't tell that there was anything there. And this looks quite a bit darker than it is on screen. So that's, you know, what's going on there. So let's let that dry. Well, actually, while that's drying, I'm going to come in and kind of deal with this shadow under here. Because while this is in shadow, there's this darker section that's the bottom of that beam that goes across the top of the door. So I'm just going to use some indigo for that. You could use like a real dark blue or whatever. I'm just going to use indigo though. Well, I may mix it. Actually, I'm going to mix it with a little bit of, I'm going to use indigo with a tiny bit of Hooker's green in it. So let me kind of show you. That's what this is right here. This kind of mix. It all looks very similar, but it is a little bit different. So I'm going to use that, and I'm going to come in. So I've got this kind of curve that comes down here, and then that back kind of plate, if you will. And that looks really dark, but it's not going to be that dark when it dries. And I'm just going to pull that across and get a little more water. all that is really is just the underside of that beam. It's a really thick beam, at least in mine. And that's just going to help push that, push that door back as well. And so this will come in like that. And yep, okay. So that's looking okay. Kind of just, and I'm not too worried about that little hiccup there. That could be, you know, like a little chunk out of the. Well, you can't even hardly see it on the screen, but I'll zoom in. I kind of had a little bit of a hiccup right there, but that's okay. It just looks like, you know, it's got a big chunk out of it or something. So let me come over here and kind of soften this. That's still a little damp there, but that's all right. And all I'm going to do is just kind of come in with a clean brush and just soften this edge just a bit. I should have waited a little bit longer on that, but that's okay. That was just a bit wet, wetter than I thought. We'll just kind of come in like so. Soften it and then pick it up. So come in, soften this. Maybe I should have done it slightly wetter. That's all right. That's looking better. It's not looking too bad. So every now and then I pick up a little bit of color, like wet, and put it on there so that it'll bleed over into this area where I'm softening and cause a little bit more softening. Clean my brush, really clean that area up a little bit. That just gives us that kind of curve. We're going to end up with some shadows over here, so I'm not too worried about this not being as nice as that. Or, you know, or not quite matching that one. It is okay. But, you know, you can see I softened that quite a bit, so it looks a little more gradual, a little more curved. And starts to build that depth in, so it's going down into that doorway. So the doorway feels a little deeper. Maybe not as deep as the original source photo, but deeper nonetheless. Pick up that drop of water. Yeah. Now, what I'm going to do over here is actually pick up some of this shadow bit here. Even though it's in shadow, it's going to be picking up just a wee bit more light than some of the other bits. So I'm just going to kind of, doesn't have to be a lot lighter, just a wee bit. And to get rid of that line, I'll just come in and soften that. so. Looks like that. So I'm getting that little bit of reflected light, where it's just gonna be picking up a little bit more light. So it's just a bit lighter in that shadow area. And it just looks a little, it also gives it that curve. Soften that a bit. Anybody else's allergies going nuts?
Mine are still going crazy.
Oh yeah, mine are too. I'm just going to add a little more purple over here. Just I didn't care for that lighter splotchy bit there. It doesn't look that light on screen, but on my painting, it looks a little weird. Yeah, that's okay. And then I want this side of the wall to look a little bit, like here, to look just a touch darker than what I've got there. So what I'm going to do, and I don't want it a lot, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little pyro orange, but you could use just your quick, what is it? Cadmium orange, or I have a permanent yellow orange. I could use that. But in this case, I'm going to use a little pyro orange because it softens out into that nice, what is it? Nice kind of peach color. So there's a fair amount right there. And obviously that's too much, but it's pretty wet. And so I'm going to just kind of move it around a little bit with water. And then what I can do is really kind of come over here and soften this edge just with a clean brush. Pick some of that up. Let's see. Like so. But you can see I've kind of continued that just by adding just a wee bit of pyro orange. Or again, if you wanted to use, if you don't have pyro orange, if you want to use cadmium orange or permanent yellow orange or whatever orange you've got, or even like I could use a little Scarlet Lake if I wanted to over here. And the fact that it's a little, I've got these kind of broken up, splotchy things where I haven't covered everything is okay because soften that because it's an Adobe house, so it's going to have that kind of rough plastered kind of look. Yeah. So, but you can see just that little tiny bit that I added made that pop and look so much lighter, like it's catching more light, and that gives it that depth that I want. Yeah, that's not too bad. Pretty happy with that. Let's do this doorknob. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a little bit of let's see, what do I want to use? I'm going to use a little bit of quinacridone gold and a little bit of burnt sienna and then a little bit of indigo, and I'm going to make this look kind of like a rusty doorknob. So I've got this quinacridone gold kind of up in there. Just a wee bit of it. I got it a little too dark, so I'll just pick some of that up. And then I'm going to come in with a little bit of that burnt sienna. Or if you don't, want to use burnt sienna, if you have something like quinacridone burnt orange or or what is it? Quinacridone burnt scarlet. I've got one of those. That's kind of fun. I've got a quinacridone sienna, which is slightly different than a burnt sienna, but any of those. So while this is still wet, I've talked too much. While this is still wet, I'm going to come in and add a little of that. And so let me just add a little more water. And then I'm going to come in with a little of that indigo green mix that I made. And I'm just going to finish off this side of the doorknob with that. Just kind of come in around there. Let me see if I can zoom in on that so you can kind of see what's going on. It's not, there's not a lot to it. All it is that little doorknob, and then I'll have a shadow that comes off of it as well. But pretty easy, little quinacridone gold, little burnt sienna, and a little indigo or royal blue mixed with green, hooker's green, or Prussian blue would have worked fine, or Antwerp blue. Any of those kind of green blues would be perfect for this. Let's pick that back up just a bit because I'm getting a little too far over. Yeah, and there's not a lot of detail in that. I don't need a lot. Maybe I want to drop just a hint of copper right in there, just to add a little tiny pop of pizzazz. Get that to bleed out. There we go. Nobody will ever notice it, but me. But it makes that just kind of sing a little bit more. And that's really all there is to that doorknob. Really simple. And then once that dries, which will be here in a second, I can add a little bit of a cast shadow from it. So let me just dry that real quick. There we go. And I'll just come in with a little royal blue maybe. Or royal blue green mix. And this shadow is going to kind of come in right in there. I'm going to make it a little elongated. Like so. And I don't know, can you guys see that? Let me just kind of zoom in on that. Yeah, just kind of pull that back down and make that shadow there. What I am going to do is make that edge of the, let me dry that real quick. I'm going to make that lead, that backside edge of the doorknob just a skosh darker. Just kind of come in like that. Maybe put a few dots of dark on there. I don't know if you can't really see it, but I just made it just a skosh darker, just so it pops up from the shadow a little bit more. And then added just a few little dots of that dark on there as well. Yeah, not too bad. So far I'm pretty happy with this. Well, hey, we have 15 minutes left in class. Do you want me to look at some of y'all's before class ends, and we'll pick this up again next week? I really, honestly, if you have somebody else who can register for class, honestly, I'm pretty sure the class is going to make, even being short one person.
Michael, I talked to CLC today and they said your class had made.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm not even worried about it. That's great.
Well,
So-
don't take their word for it or my word for it, but that's what they told me.
Okay, then I'm not too worried about it. I'll double check and with them tomorrow, but I'm if you know, with 7 people, they're usually so good about that you know, that's close enough to 8 that they're. Heck, I've there've been a couple of semesters where they let me teach the class with 6 students. Although then there's those years, you know, those semesters where I'm, you know, turning people away. So it's just one of those things you never know. But yeah, so we'll finish this up next week. And do you want me to do you want me to look at some of y'all's before we go, or?
I'm not quite ready, but yeah,
Well, that's okay, just to kind of see where you're at.
right. I need to do it with my wall, so I'll take a picture of it. I mean, I'll let you see mine.
We'll just make you there we go. And yeah, just pull it out a little bit further. Right there is good. Let me grab a shot of that.
Wow.
Steady, and got it.
Okay.
All right. So we will grab
When we were doing the flowers, I thought we were going to do yellow flowers. I did not know that we were encircling them and making them white flowers.
Oh, well, that's okay. Well, no, actually, they're going to be like a pink.
Oh.
Is what I'm going to make mine. But you don't necessarily have to make them pink. So let me get rid of this. Let's consolidate all.
White flowers, very pretty.
Yeah, well, white flowers are fine too. I just and actually yours looks really interesting. Let me share the screen here. Not interesting. That's not the word. I know you guys tease me when I use the word interesting.
I'm-
I mean, I think your plants, your flowers look pretty cool.
Looks great.
Trying to turn them into white flowers.
You-
Okay,
If you wanted, go ahead.
my wall on the left side looks a little dull compared. Right.
Compared to this, well, we'll probably go back in and add a little bit more of kind of some of the stuff that we did here on the,
You know,
on the side as well.
okay.
But I think this is looking pretty good. I might just because this, and it could just be the camera, you know, being a little, you know, it's never as good as the human eye, no matter how good a camera you have.
Uh-huh.
This shadow here on the door seems almost the same darkness, you know, the same value as the rest of the door.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
I might go in with just another little wash of dark over it. Not a whole lot darker than it is, just enough, just a little bit, just to kind of darken that just a little bit more, so it's not quite the same
Okay.
darkness as this is.
Okay.
Right now, they're so close in value that
I see that now in
yeah,
the picture.
and it could just be, again, you know, in real life, it may not be quite as much look, you know, it may not look as much like that it's the same value, but I would just darken that just a wee bit, just this area of the door, you know, just to set it apart, because you've got such a dark shadow here.
Yeah.
I mean, you want this to be slightly, you know, the door's slightly lighter than that, but not by much.
Right.
But yeah, no, I think this is looking really nice. I like your kind of curvy. This is really cool. This I like it even better than what I've got going on. You've got
Of the-
uneven, curvy edge, which has that kind of Adobe feel.
Yeah, rounded look.
Yeah,
That way the original picture had it.
Yeah, it does. It does. If we look at,
I drew that line there.
yeah. So yeah, no, I like that. That's fun.
Okay, I'll darken up my door and
I mean, this is looking really good. You got a nice little shadow going on there. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Good job. Yeah, you're welcome. What am I trying to do? Anybody else want me to look at theirs?
You can look at mine, but I know there's a lot of improvements. I
Well,
mean,
you know, we're far.
it's hard. It's hard to keep up with you.
Well, if I'm ever going too fast, you guys just yell at me and say, "Hey."
It's like, oh my gosh, can't quite get this right, and then you're on to something else.
Sorry about that. Well, feel free to yell out at me and say, "Hey, wait." 'Cause I get in kind of a painting zone, and especially in this format where we're not like in normal when we're in the classroom, I paint a little bit, and you guys paint a little bit, and then paint a little bit, so it breaks it up a little bit more. Whereas here, it was just easier to kind of just go through and paint.
Yeah, but we are getting a lot of paintings done.
Well, that's true. That's true. We get a little bit more done, but yeah. So if I'm going too fast, feel free to yell out and say, "Hey, wait a minute."
Yeah.
I completely missed the door. I didn't even get the door painted at all.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. That's okay. And that's another good reason for recording these.
I think I'll look at the video.
Yeah, you'll be able to watch it and catch up and stuff. So yeah, don't worry about being behind or anything. But if I'm going too fast, feel free to just say, "Wait a minute, not there yet."
Okay, do you want to look at mine now?
Sure.
All
Yeah.
right,
There you are.
if I can get it in there.
Yeah.
Ah,
Okay. Yeah. No, I think just pull it back. Let's see.
Okay, just a minute.
Well, you're pretty close. Can you pull it back away just to scope? Perfect, right there. Just kind of keep it right there. Okay, got it. All right, let's see here. Doo-doo-doo. I ended up getting a little bit of your purple tape.
Oh, yeah, it's painted purple.
Oh,
The board is.
so I ended up getting a little bit more of that than probably needed, but I'm just gonna. So, and share the screen. This is looking nice, Kathy. This is looking nice, Kathy. Wow, that was a weird echo.
Yeah, it was.
So yeah, really, I think this is nice. You've got this nice kind of, gradual curve to that shaded side. You're picking up this light here. Good contrast between the two values on the shadow part of the door and the door. This is kind of fun the way this kind of jiggers down because it well, mine kind of does a similar thing. You know, really what it was is a mistake on my part, not paying attention to where I was going with that shadow. But now it looks like, oh, well, that's part of the way the roof line goes or something, you know, for the patio. So that just makes it kind of more interesting.
Well, that's a good thing because I couldn't seem to get it to do any other way.
No, it works. It's working good. So I like it. Yeah. Yeah. And I know, you know, like everything looks a little flat, like the door. But once we start going in and adding detail to that, it'll look much more like a door, not just a big blue rectangle. So yeah, no, this is looking nice. I mean, I really can't think of anything too much to do differently, or to.
Okay, good.
I think you're on a good track. You've got a bit of an outline happening right here around this.
I know it's because the water just stopped there and puddled.
Yeah, sometimes I have that problem sometimes too. You could probably go back in and just soften that with a brush,
Okay.
with clean water now that it's dry.
Okay.
Just soften that right through there.
Okay.
And if need be, later we'll probably add a bit of a cast shadow coming off of here. Some of that will go away anyway.
Okay. That's good.
So I wouldn't worry about it too much, but that's really the only thing I'm seeing so far. Everything else is looking great. Good job.
Well, thank you.
Ooh, excuse me. Anybody else?
I don't know if can you see me, Michael?
No. I see a black screen where. Let's see.
You have to go down to the bottom of your screen and turn on your video camera.
Yeah, I don't think your camera's on. Ah, there you go. Let's. Yeah, there we go. Can you go up just a skosh, just a hair? Perfect, right there. Got it. All right. Let's see here.
Well, I'm kind of way behind. Got in over an hour late.
That's okay. That's okay. Cool thing is, I mean, you can, go back and watch the video, and if you have, let's see, let me crop this down just a bit. I think you might have, I got it. This is a little blurry. So I may have snapped it right as maybe you moved it slightly or something, but it's not too bad. Let me, what am I trying to do here?
Well, I think the painting's a little blurry.
Okay, share screen. That's what I'm trying to do. Share screen. Stop two. Well, I can see you were trying to catch up, and I totally understand what's going on. You didn't get to do the, the pot, the terracotta pot things, and that's okay. Those are easily added. Let's see. What do you? And then you're kind of you're missing that bit of. Shadow here, aren't you?
Right.
On the door. But this is, I mean, believe it or not, this looks a lot like mine did when I was at this stage. It looks like just a whole slew of weird colored shapes. So it's not too bad. The only thing I might see if I couldn't soften this bit here a little bit, where this whole whoa, this whole line here,
Right. Yeah, I see that.
just kind of soften that a little bit, so that it's a little. You don't have to soften all of it. So if some of it won't soften, or you end up with a little bit of that line still there, that's okay. But that'll cause some confusion when you put this angled shadow in, and then we're gonna end up putting a little bit of a shadow along this edge of the door too, but not quite that way. So I would just soften that. But I think you're in pretty good shape. This may be just a touch on the dark side, but maybe not. Maybe not. Again, we're painting at night, and so it's not the classroom with all those bright fluorescent lights, so it's hard to tell. So it could just be the camera and my screen, and many other factors that go in. Mine I thought looked a little dark too. But I think you've got a good start going on here. And again, once we start adding some of these details into the door, that'll stop looking like a blue rectangle and start looking like an actual door. We've got there's a bit of a even darker shadow that runs on the underside of that beam that goes across the top of the door, and that kind of stuff. So I think you're doing fine. I think this is going well.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just continue on, and you're doing good. Anybody else?
I think I'll wait till next class. It's
Till next
9 o'clock, and I'm yawning like you are.
It's starting to fade. Well, that's fine. Yeah, we'll finish this up next week, and I have no doubt about that. And I'll, as soon as this as I can, I'll upload this. If not sooner, it'll be at least by Thursday. I'll have this uploaded to YouTube. If you don't see it for some reason, if I don't send you an email, feel free to email me and go, hey, have you done that yet? Because I don't mind that whatsoever. Just a little reminder, because sometimes I get busy and I forget about stuff, and even if I have it on my calendar, which I do on every Thursday, I have upload video, and sometimes I just get past that, or just forget about it. I'll see it in the morning and think, oh, okay, that's on my list of things to do after I finish teaching class. And it goes right outside of my head. So, but yeah, I'll definitely have it.
So
Oh, go ahead.
I have a question. To soften the edges, how do you do that?
Just with water. So you can just do it with let's do this real quick. So if I wanted to soften an edge, all I would do is just get a clean, say I wanted to soften this right here for some, I can just come in with a little water and see how that's starting to soften that line. See how that softened that? It's not as sharp a line anymore.
Okay, so you just take the paintbrush
Yeah, it's just
and go over it, and then stick it out.
It's just a paintbrush with water in it. And just I just kind of work the brush a little bit, and I'm not worried about screwing this up because I can come back and make that sharp again later. But and then what I did was I just wiped the brush down so it was dry. If you need to, you could squeeze it out. But then I just and then I could take a little more water and just kind of soften that back. But you can see it's nice and soft now. It's a nice soft line. And all that is just water in my brush and nice, clean, fairly clean water and my brush. And then once I get it kind of softened, then I just came over here and kind of wiped it on this towel. But I'll sometimes I'll squeeze it out with my finger. And then I came back in and kind of picked some of that up. And that softens that line. And then if I've got stuff like this where it's forming a new weird line, I can come in just with more water. That looks dark because it's wet, but I can just soften that. Same with up here. And that's all it takes to soften a line. That's what I did over here. I painted that. That was fairly sharp. And I came back in and softened it with water. It's still a little sharp right there where it didn't want to pick up. That's okay because I'm going to have a bit of a cast shadow on there. So that's really all that is. Hopefully, did that make sense?
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
You're very welcome. Yeah. Well, I guess if that's it, if nobody else wants me to look at their work, and it is almost 10. Well, it's 9:08, so that seems close, close enough to the time. Or well, it's after 9, so I know that you guys, if you're like me, you're tired. So.
Yep, I'm yawning.
For some reason, I was yawning before class started. I don't know why. I have plenty of sleep. I don't know what's going on. I think it's just the allergies make my eyes tired. That makes me feel like I'm tired. But with that, I guess have a great rest of your week and a great weekend. And I'll see you next Monday.
Hey, bye-bye.
We'll see.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.